Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience traveling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.
In the last 48 hours, I've been chasing the story for a while. There has been a great deal of media comment on the suggestion that contact sports in this country, although it's part, I have to say, of a Western or mostly English speaking, I have to say, typical West sort of cause celeb at the moment, that contact sports should be barred and banned for all under-14s, shouldn't be allowed to play them. And that goes from things like, I don't know, competitive boxing and taekwondo, amateur boxing, but more importantly, right through to playing rugby, playing rugby league. What is another contact sport? Netball, I've always regarded as a contact sport. So any of those sports, under-14 shouldn't be allowed to play them, despite representative sports and schools and a whole series of other organisations over many years, decades, generations, arranging such. And it would appear to me without any particular problem, but there you go. There is an international movement now because of the alleged link between contact sports and CTE. Now, I'm going to try and say this. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Oh, well done, Michael. First time. Which is a degenerative brain disease associated with depression, suicide, and dementia. And you would see a lot of that, for example, happening particularly in the upper reaches of rugby in this country and rugby league. I think it's even in soccer, in actual fact, from heading balls. So they've got a similar CTE for a so-called non-contact sport as well. Now, if you remember, this was then as an extreme example given, which is just craziness, but there you go. Just in a recent, I think Radio New Zealand or New Zealand Herald article, the 19-year-old white New Zealander, unfortunately, Ryan Satterthwaite, who died in Palmerston North after participating in a bloody stupid game called Run It Straight. You know that Run It Straight challenge where you're meant to run at people and guess what? Unlike, surprise, surprise, you could get knocked out. Well, he didn't just get knocked out, he died. And for some reason this is being used as an argument as to why contact sports should be barred for under-14s. Well, on that issue, that's why I'm fascinated to pursue this issue and whether or not your children or grandchildren will be allowed to play contact sport into the future. The chairman of the Wellington Referees Association, Ian Dallas, joins us now. Ian, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Listen, Ian, I've got you on because you and your association obviously referee sports for rugby anyhow at this age. Do you notice concussion being a problem amongst kids of this age group?
No, not particularly. No more so than anywhere else or any other game. It's not a common thing, fortunately, but we're all conscious of it, very obviously. And obviously there's been a lot of media around what continuing head knocks can do, and that's an awful thing, as it does in many sports and many other events.
Okay, so can I ask you, I mean, how long have you been refereeing, for example?
I've been refereeing for over 30 years.
Okay, well, you've got a brilliant experience then. So in the 30 years that you've been refereeing, has rugby changed at the levels that we're talking about, in that sort of primary, intermediate level? Has it changed in the way it's played? Is it more physical, for example?
I think it might be slightly more physical because children seem to be a little bit bigger at an early age these days. But in terms of the game and the way it's run by the administrators, it's, I believe, a much more safer game. There's been a lot of emphasis on not only scrums, and of course we used to have the neck concerns, but particularly around tackle technique, tackle heights, been a lot of drive around this to create a much safer playing environment for everybody, and particularly at the younger ages. And I think that's come through. And in the main, it is very safe. There will always be accidents, irrespective of how much you spend trying to teach children at a young age how they should be tackling and how to tackle safely. Things will happen. But in the main, I believe it's a very safe game.
Okay. Now, the new tackle law is, the last game of rugby I played, believe it or not, was about 10 years ago. God, I was pretty stupid, but there you go. And I was a small, little, weedy white boy like me. I think I was allowed to hit you at the chest level. So I can remember a big chap running at me, and I just sort of put out my hand like that, and thank God he ran into it. That's banned now, isn't it? You're not allowed to tackle around the chest. Is that right? And is that particularly enforced at under 14 level, is it?
Yes, it is. So we talk about the sternum and tackling below the sternum level. Certainly overseas, there's a drive for the young age to make that even lower and below the waist level, and that may well come for children, which I think would potentially be a very good thing, teaching, once again, good technique, where to put your head, tackle low, etc. But at the moment in New Zealand, the drive is to tackle below the sternum.
Okay. Can I always say that when I was playing rugby at that age, I was always reluctant to put my head down to where there were flying knees. Did that cause problems of its own, just quietly, particularly with sort of high-stepping Pacific Island boys?
Yeah, knees and hips are obviously potentially very hard areas. So it's around, once again, going back to technique and teaching good technique and getting the head on the side. That is, in practice, is not always going to happen. And the other thing around age grade rugby is around having weight grades, so that the bigger boys are in a bigger group with other bigger boys. Yeah. So there's a lot of work done in that area to keep the game safe for those children at that age.
I've also coached this age group at playing rugby as well, and one of the things I noticed, I was in Flaxmere actually, in Hastings, I noticed was the number of girls playing rugby at this age, or under 14, who are playing with the boys. I think it's differentiated a little bit later on when they get older, but I guess that's because they're still roughly physically equivalent, are they?
I presume that's the reasoning. Young girls just want to get involved in the game. Probably also, although there's great numbers and growing at college level, at the lower grades there's often not enough to create a team, so they just go in amongst the boys. Yeah. They play also flag these days, which is very popular, so that they're not tackling, but they're learning to grab around the hips to pull those flags off, etc. So there is a lot available for them, and it's once again, the upper echelons of the game are trying to encourage young kids to be involved in sport and playing with a rugby ball, passing and running, and so they do have these other forms to encourage them to get involved.
So I take it then that there's not much support amongst your folk for banning rugby for under 14s in New Zealand.
I would believe no. We believe we create in the main a very safe environment. We do a lot as referees. We have the right to stop the game and take a player off the paddock for their own safety. Should we think that there's been a head knock of any sort, and certainly anything more serious, player safety is paramount with all referees in every referee association. And long may that continue.
Yeah, okay. Now, the other thing I'm interested in is, you say you've been reffing for 30 years, is the environment in which you ref. And the reports, they always are reports of bad behaviour on the sideline by mostly parents, but the occasional coach as well, etc. Has it got any worse over the 30 years that you've been reffing?
No, I don't think so. certainly at college level, parents can seem to be over enthusiastic, and the perceptions of that go both ways, that it's sometimes taken a little bit too far and they get a little too enthusiastic. But I don't think it's any worse. We certainly highlight it more now and try and deal with it both officially and in other means by sideline joining in and telling people to calm down, etc. So people are much more conscious of it these days. And once again, social media rears its ugly head, and always a lot of film and photos taken. But I don't think it's any worse particularly.
Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience travelling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.